Welcome to Accidental Salesforce Admins. This is your podcast for changemakers trying to go from firefighting, solution-oriented problem solvers to strategic outcomes-based leaders. I'm Robert Sur, co-founder and CEO of Delegate, and in this episode, we're diving into the humans lens of our Deep Five framework, the framework we use to align priorities, perspectives, and processes so that you can lead with clarity and confidence. How do you build systems that truly work? The kind that doesn't just look good on paper, but actually delivers real results? And the answer starts with people. If you're an accidental admin, you already know this. You're the glue holding things together, the one connecting teams, tools, and processes. But here's the catch. As much as we try to rely on tools and processes to create order, systems don't run on autopilot, do they? They run on people. And people, they're human. They come with quirks, concerns, emotions, and ambitions, and you can't control them. You can't avoid conflict or resistance. But I'm here to tell you that you don't have to. The humans lens isn't about controlling people or avoiding conflict. It's about seeing their humanness, their quirks, their concerns, their contributions, and harnessing everyone's unique potential instead of fighting it. So today we're going to explore 3 ways to embrace the human lens: building relationships before you need them, positioning the project as a win for everybody, and staying flexible because people are unpredictable, yet they hate surprises. And that's not a bug, it's a feature. At the heart of every system is a group of people. And here's what makes this lens so essential. People don't just bring their skills to a project, they bring their perspectives, their motivations, and sometimes their resistance. And if you think about your typical Salesforce project, usually looks something like this, right? Sales and marketing want speed and simplicity. They don't have time for anything that slows them down. IT is focused on security, compliance, scalability. Leadership is watching the bottom line, asking how this project will help them deliver better margins or increased revenue. They're all looking at the same project, but through different lenses. And if you don't take the time to understand their world, you're setting yourself up for friction or, even worse, failure. The humans lens reminds us that people aren't problems to fix. They're potential to unlock. And when you embrace their quirks, their concerns, and contributions, you're not just managing a project, you're creating a system that works because it's built for the people who make it run. Let me tell you about a project that I worked on with a boutique recruiting agency. The project, known internally as Placement Precision 25, was pretty straightforward on paper, right? It was to reduce their time to placement by 25% by centralizing their candidate lifecycle in Salesforce. Pretty clear, impactful outcome, and the team rallied around it. But as we got into the work, right, the humanness started to bubble to the surface. The recruiters and the technical team building the solution had vastly different priorities. The recruiters wanted tools to simplify their day-to-day workflows so they can focus on connecting with candidates. Developers, meanwhile, focusing on designing a scalable, technically sound system that could handle the complexities of the agency's operations today, but also things that they couldn't predict or things that were to come in the future. So what began as a pretty straightforward project quickly turned into this tug of war as we got into the weeds. Recruiters started to feel a little frustrated that the developers weren't prioritizing or hearing their needs. The developers felt like the recruiters just didn't understand how difficult this was and how complex this was, and they were being resistant to change. So they didn't appreciate all the work that it required to get them what they needed. It was pretty clear that we needed a reset, and we did it with something surprisingly simple. When it felt like tensions were running at their highest, at the next status meeting, we just introduced a little bit of an icebreaker. It wasn't just small talk, it was intentional. It was well planned, and it was an opportunity to break down the walls and humanize the people behind the roles and behind the project. Let's talk about applying the humans lens. There's 3 key tips that I have for you when it comes to applying the humans lens. Number 1, build relationships before you need them. You can't expect to create trust on the fly. It's just not how this works. Relationships take time, and the best ones are built early, often, and consistent. During Placement Precision 25, when we kicked off that next meeting with that simple icebreaker, we had everybody in the room share 2 things. First, their most unexpected job past or present. One of the recruiters shared how they used to deliver pizzas in college, navigating directions without Google Maps, cranky customers, and rush hour traffic. This all taught them how to be patient and understand how to solve problems under pressure. Skills they now use to juggle the demands of clients and last minute candidate changes, last minute schedule changes without really breaking a sweat. Another recruiter talked about working as a barista at a high end coffee shop. And they shared how they learned how to connect with regular customers of all different types, remembering their preferences and reminding us that it's some of the little things that create a great experience. And this is a practice that they now bring to candidate relationships and client relationships, ensuring that every interaction feels personalized and meaningful. One of the technical folks, the developer, surprised everyone by admitting they used to work at a local animal shelter, right? They talked about wrangling really troubled dogs and, I guess, abused puppies, and that really kind of prepared them for how to manage chaotic projects or high emotions involved, right? Where everyone has different needs and maybe things don't go as planned. The other question that we asked in this icebreaker is, what's the one thing that they wish others understood about their job? The recruiters talked a lot about how much time they spent on follow-ups and outreach and scheduling, hours of calling, emailing, chasing people down, getting ghosted most of the time. They shared how emotionally draining it was to invest so much time and energy into this, only to have promising leads never come through, promising candidates that do go through canceling at the last minute, and actually how this impacts the amount of money they take home every month. One recruiter specifically mentioned how hard it was to balance speed and quality. They often felt the pressure to present candidates faster, but they knew rushing the process might lead to poor fits. They describe how they have to defend their decisions to clients, even when they know taking a little extra time would have yielded better results. On the technical side, the developers started to discuss and express how often their work feels invisible unless something goes wrong. They explained how frustrating it was to spend weeks perfecting a feature only to have stakeholders focus on what's missing instead of what's working. They honestly just wished others could see them and how much thought and effort goes into every decision that they make, even the ones that are seemingly quite trivial and quite small. So this exercise wasn't just about small talk, right? It was about creating the space for people to see beyond roles and titles. And it doesn't have to end here, right? The team used this to facilitate continued nurturing of these relationships as the project went forward. They met with stakeholders early in the process, of course, but they started to talk outside of these high stakes conversations, these team meetings, these project update meetings. They started to have conversation about what their goals were, their pain points, and what success looked like for them, not as an entity, but as a human. And they started to look for opportunities to show up for each other's priorities, even if it was outside the immediate impact of this one project. Because when tough moments come, as they always do, you'll then have this foundation of trust to lean on. Second tip here, position this project as a win-win for everybody. Position the project as a win for everyone. From the start, the Placement Precision 25 project had a pretty clear outcome, right? Reduce time to placement by 25%. That was the outcome that was being targeted for this project. But the project success wasn't just about meeting that number. It was about making sure we can frame the work as a win for everyone involved. So for recruiters, it wasn't just about this new system. It wasn't just about reducing time to placement by 25%. It was about giving them back time to focus on high value tasks like candidate engagement and reducing frustrated drop-offs late in the process. For compliance, it was about improving data accuracy and minimizing risk during audits. And for leadership, it became a success story that they could share with prospective clients, showing how their agency invested in innovation to deliver better results. What these conversations help us uncover are these different perspectives. When one recruiter shared how heartbreaking it was to lose a candidate late in the process due to maybe inefficiencies in the process, it really underscored how much drop-offs affected both their work and also their morale. So that insight really helped us reframe the project. Reducing time to placement wasn't just a metric, it became a way to solve the drop-off problem, improve recruiters' daily workflow, and strengthen the client candidate experience. More importantly, we started to understand how to position this to the people involved. When you position a project as a win for everyone, you're not expanding the scope of the project. Let me be very clear, right? Just because you're expanding on what it means to win for everyone involved in the project does not mean you're expanding on the scope. But what you are doing is you're connecting the dots between the work that's being done and what matters the most to each stakeholders, right? What matters to each stakeholder is going to vary. So start by asking, what does success look like for each stakeholder group? And start using language that resonates with their goals. Yes, Placement Precision 25's outcome was to achieve a 25% reduction in time to placement. But it was just as much about addressing the pain points of everyone involved, because at the end of the day, people are people. Number 3, no surprises. Here's the thing about working with people. They don't like surprises. Unexpected changes, last minute announcements, or unforeseen challenges can really erode trust, even if the intentions behind them were really good. Midway through the Placement Precision 25 project, our developers made a last second pivot on a previously agreed upon design for how the system was going to collect references from candidates. From their perspective, it was an efficient and elegant solution. It was low-hanging fruit, a no-brainer. But when this was introduced during the demo of the weekly status meeting, the recruiters felt absolutely blindsided. They saw the feature as a threat to the personal touch that they prided themselves on, and they feared it might alienate top candidates. And so the realization here wasn't that the feature itself had an issue, it was the way it was introduced. Major stakeholders should never, ever hear about a major development for the first time in a group setting like this. Here's how we turned it around. We took a step back and scheduled a one-on-one conversation with the recruiting lead. We needed to give them a heads up. We explained the purpose and benefits of this new feature, but more importantly, we invited them to share their perspective. This wasn't just about pitching the idea, but it was about showing respect for their expertise, their role in this. It was about seeing them, and it's about building alignment before this broader rollout. We started to collaborate on adjustments. So as the recruiting lead explained, their concerns were that the automations needed to support their personal connection with candidates, not replace it. So together, we reworked the feature to include more flexibility. It gave recruiters much more control over how and when this automation was to be applied. The last thing we did was align on messaging. So before presenting the updated feature to the full team, we worked with the recruiting lead to shape the messaging. So instead of positioning this as an awesome new feature that was a time saver, we started to frame it as a tool that enhanced their ability to focus on high-value tasks like candidate relationships. So when the feature was rolled out, it went from being a source of frustration to a welcomed value add. Here's how you can adopt the no surprises mindset in your projects. Communicate early and communicate personally. Major updates and changes or challenges should never, ever be shared with key stakeholders in a group setting like that. It should always be shared in advance. A private conversation is also helpful. It gives them the opportunity to process, ask questions, provide feedback without the pressure of a group setting. It also shows that you're thinking about their world. You're thinking about how it will impact them outside of the broader group. Number 2, invite collaboration. When resistance arises, see this as an opportunity to collaborate. Often it's not about rejecting the idea, but it's about addressing concerns that might be valid or refining the approach to align better with the stakeholder needs. Last thing you do to apply this is keep everyone in the loop, right? Work with your stakeholders, shape the messaging for the broader team. When stakeholders feel heard and involved, they're more likely to champion the solution and champion your idea instead of resisting it. So again, don't assume that something that might be insignificant for you is insignificant to others. No surprises. Look, the human lens isn't about controlling people or avoiding conflict. It's about seeing their humanness. Okay, we're going to find ways to harness their potential and not fight it. At the end of Placement Precision 25, what stood out wasn't just the system we built, but it was really cool to see the people being brought together. Relationships were strengthened. The team got better after this. The future iterations of this, it got better every time. Trust was built, walls came down. The truth is, people aren't a problem to be solved. They're key to your success, and when you embrace their humanness, you're going to create systems and deliver on, you're not just going to deliver the results of the project. You're not just going to deliver features. You're going to actually deliver real lasting impact for the organization. At the end of the day, people are at the center of everything we do, and we're not predictable. We're not perfect, but that's what makes them and the systems we build so powerful, right? The humans lens is all about embracing this reality. It's about building relationships early and often. It's about showing people how their goals fit into the bigger picture. And it's about creating trust by ensuring that there are no surprises, keeping people informed, keeping people involved, and aligned every step of the way. So my challenge to you, take the time to connect with the people that you work with, and not just when you need something, but consistently. Position your projects as a win for everyone by connecting the dots between their goals and the outcomes you're driving towards. And the next time plans shift or resistance pops up, don't let it catch anyone off guard. Bring key stakeholders into the loop early and use those moments to build stronger alignment. Successful systems do not start with technology. They start with understanding the people who make them work. And the next time, we're going to explore the technology lens. We're going to explore how to choose the right tools and implement them in the ways that drive real impact. Until next time, remember, people will surprise you in the best ways and sometimes the worst ways. But when you embrace that humanness, you're going to create systems that don't just work. They're going to thrive because they're built for the people at the heart of them.